The camera was on. He forgot. I know because I pressed play on a rainy afternoon when the magnolia beat the windows like a soft drummer, and the house asked for company. That little white nursery cam. We never took it down, even after the crib became a bookshelf. And the bookshelf became a place to stack folded quilts and unanswered mail. I wasn't looking for secrets. Grief taught me not to rummage. I was dusting. Then the power blinked, the screen woke, and there it was. A clip. Dated 2 years before Daniel died, I made tea I forgot to drink. I pressed play, static hum, a dark room, the old rocking chair I never sold. At 11:17 p.m., Daniel walks in, soft steps, no socks, the way he moved when he didn't want to wake a sleeping idea. He's carrying a tote bag, like a nurse after hours. He sets it down, bottled water, bandages, a notebook. And then he does something I have never seen in all our quiet years. He talks to the empty room. "Okay," he says, voice small and brave. "Practice then. Say it out loud." We bought the camera when Evan's little one visited, back when the crib made sense. After the visits, I meant to pack it away. Instead, it watched an empty room, and apparently it watched my husband practicing the truth. On the screen, he rubs his palms together, looks down, looks up. "May," he says to the air, to me, to the lens. "There's something I keep meaning to tell you Tuesdays." He laughs, the nervous kind. "Start again." He tries again. "May, if you're hearing this, it means I'm practicing not to hide behind good intentions. It means I've remembered to tell you about the map, about Mara, about the church on Grove, about why the trunk is full of water." He stops. He covers his eyes. "I'm scared you'll think I'm a liar because I told the truth too late." Then he does the ordinary thing that broke me. He kneels and checks the window latch. He oils it, wipes the extra with a rag, hums the off-key line of a hymn he swore he didn't know. He forgot the camera, but the camera didn't forget him. I paused the clip and sat very still so my heart could catch up. We don't get to pick how the past returns. Sometimes it uses a doorbell, sometimes a camera. "Okay," I said into the empty kitchen. "Okay." I pressed play again. Daniel sets out the tote contents on the rocking chair as if laying a table. Water, first aid kit, a roll of quarters, bus schedules printed from a public library. "To say to May," he whispers, reading from a little card. "You'll ask why I didn't bring this home sooner. Because I thought protecting you from my old failure was the same as loving you. It wasn't." He swallows. "I'm learning to love you with the whole mess." He takes a breath so careful I can hear it in my bones. He looks straight into the lens like he finally found my eyes. "Tuesdays are the day I tell the truth," he says. I sit in the back pew at Grove Street and hand out water like sacraments. I listen until the stories turn into people. I'm not saving anyone. I'm keeping a promise I made to the boy who couldn't save his sister. Mara. He says her name once. Softly, the room becomes a memory. "I should have told you I want to. I'm practicing." I paused, because honest words deserve room to stand up straight. The magnolia scratched the glass. The kettle clicked off on its own. "All right, Daniel," I said, more to myself than to the screen. "Let's watch everyone you made." I opened the camera app I'd never cared to open. There were more, not many, maybe a dozen. Nights spaced like stepping stones. I pressed the next triangle. New date. The same room. Rain. Daniel walks in with a small screwdriver held like a pencil. Storm will test weak places, he tells the empty rocker. Windows. Pride. He tightens the latch. He tests it. Satisfied, he sits in the rocker and talks to the ceiling. If I tell May, she'll forgive me and be mad at me, and both will be right, he says. I'm afraid of the middle, where I don't deserve comfort yet. He laughs that breath laugh again. Tuesdays are easier. They don't ask me to be perfect. Another clip. Another night. He comes in carrying sticky notes, writes a name on each, sticks them to the wall in a neat little constellation. Dahlia Lila. Anna. One says simply, M. He points at them like a teacher lecturing tenderness. Remember, he tells the air, people aren't projects, they are neighbors. He pockets the notes, then looks at the camera, like it's a friend who knows when not to speak. I'll tell May soon. He nods, as if sealing a promise. Soon. The dates line up in my mind like train cars. That month I was going to choir on Thursdays, buying a new coffee urn for the church, cleaning our gutters. Because Daniel said ladders made his knees argue. He was in this room on Tuesdays, building a little courage pile by pile. Not because he didn't love me, because he did, and didn't trust love to survive his honesty. I spoke to the screen. You were wrong about that, Daniel, I said, not unkind. But I understand. There's one more clip in the list with a different icon. Not a triangle, an exclamation point corrupted file. The label reads, If I forget, remind me. I tap. Error. I download. Error. I set the phone down and breathe the way the nurse taught me when Evan was born. Inhale through the nose, count to 4, tell your shoulders you are not a coat hanger. Okay, I say aloud to the room the way Daniel did. We ask for help. I pick up my keys to go see our son. I drove to Evans in a rain that couldn't decide if it wanted to apologize or confess. The wipers sang their rubber hymn. In the passenger seat, the phone lay face up, the corrupted clip glaring like a door with a broken knob. I said to the empty car, We're not chasing ghosts. We're keeping promises. The light turned green. I went. Evan opens doors like they're sentences, clear, quick, and kind. He saw my face and shifted into the voice he uses when someone's favorite thing just broke. Hey, Mom? Tea? I have a file that refuses to be itself, I said, handing him the phone. It says, If I forget, remind me. Your father recorded it on the nursery cam. He blinked, then nodded, as if two feelings had arrived at once, and he let both sit down. Okay, he said. Let's see what the stubborn thing is hiding. Evan's desk is a workbench of light, 2 monitors, a lamp that behaves like a sensible sun, cables tamed by Velcro. He set the phone down reverently, as if it could startle. He breathed. He always does that before he fixes what matters. First rule, he said, half to me, half to himself. We don't touch the original. We copy. Then we coax. He pulled the micro SD, slotted it into a reader, and gave the error a safe place to be wrong. Looks like the file header's corrupt, he murmured. But the data chunk, see those little bars? It's intact. He typed like a pianist playing something he'd practiced in secret. I sat beside him and watched our family breathe in pixels. The screen showed tiny blocks of stubborn memory. He rearranged them as if straightening chairs before a service. Dad named it what? He asked, squinting. If I forget, Remind me, I said. He smiled into his work. That sounds like him, apologizing to the future while trying to get braver. A grey rectangle flickered into something like a room, static. Then the rocker. Then Daniel's shoulder, half in frame, as if the camera had been nudged. No sound yet. Evan frowned, then brightened. Video's limping, he said, but there's an audio cache. The cam writes a low-res backup. If the main recording bails, the whisper track survives. He clicked. A waveform appeared, uneven, alive. Ready? Yes, I said, and I meant it for more than audio. The speakers gave us room tone, the soft electricity of a house being a house. Then Daniel's voice, thinner than real life, but true in the way old photographs are true. If I forget, remind me, he said. Remind me to say it plain. I was a boy who failed someone. I grew into a man who tried to make failure pay rent. Tuesdays, Grove Street, back pew, water, names not heroes, neighbours. A chair creaked, a paper rustled. Remind me to say her name, Mara, without building a statue out of regret. Remind me to tell May that love isn't a secret kept tidy. It's a messy room where you leave the light on. He breathed. If I forget, remind me that I'm not protecting May by hiding my soft underbelly. I'm protecting my pride. And pride is not a good guard dog. A small, self-aimed laugh. Tomorrow I'll tell her. Tomorrow I will choose to be whole. The track clicked. Silence. Evan hit pause and stared at the waveform the way you look at a new scar you're grateful to have. He was trying, my son said softly. He didn't get there in time. But he was trying. I nodded. A tear made its polite exit. We can finish what he meant to start, I said. Not the past. The after. He turned to me. What do you want to do? Tell the people who kept him brave, I said, and then keep someone else brave. The church smelled like lemon oil and fresh printouts. Reverend Lila met us in the foyer and read our faces before she read the list. Let's sit, she said, ushering us to a table that had seen 1,000 pots of coffee and 1 wedding cake. Catastrophe, we told her about the camera, about the whisper track, about Daniel's practice confessions to an empty room that was not empty at all. She listened with her hands open on the table, palms up, like a person prepared to hold either grief or good news. Do you want to play it here? She asked. If you think it won't make the room smaller, I said. She smiled. Truth told gently makes rooms bigger. Dahlia arrived from the kitchen smelling like coffee and useful opinions. She leaned in the doorway with her head cocked like a robin listening for a worm. We explained again. She nodded slowly, then added the thing I didn't know I needed. Yes, she said, but remember a camera catches angles, not souls. We'll tell folks that before we press play. Agreed, I said. We're not playing gotcha with the dead. We're practicing keep going with the living, Evan added. Dahlia grinned, one eye laughing, one eye warning. Then let's put out chairs. We set out chairs the way you set out plates for people you love, enough for newcomers, space for elbows. Evan tested the projector. The wall turned into a shy screen. Anna, from Morning Porch, slipped in with scones labelled for brave throats. She hugged me with both arms and one cheek and said, I heard a rumour about a whisper. It's true, I said. It's also kind. Good, she said. We're short on kind. When the first few arrived, familiar faces, careful faces, Reverend Lila stood as she always does, not in front, but among she said, "Tonight isn't a movie. It's a listening. Cameras record corners, hearts hold rooms. We will hear a man practicing the truth. We will not punish him for practicing." She looked at me. I nodded. "And afterward," she said, "if you have a sentence you've never said out loud, we'll make space for it." Several shoulders dropped an inch, the way shoulders do when invited to be human. The rocker appeared on the wall, familiar as a relative. The hum filled the hall like a low organ note. Daniel's voice, thin but clear. "If I forget, remind me." The line travelled through people like a small, warm wind. In row 3, a man rubbed his jaw and stared at his shoes. In the back, Nell folded her arms across herself like a person bracing for a wave and also wanting to feel it. The whisper track ended. We let the silence be a partner. Lila didn't break the hush. She eased it. "What did you hear?" A woman in a denim jacket said, "That guilt can learn a trade." A teen near the door said, "That practicing counts." Dahlia said, "That love isn't tidy, but it sure is strong." I said, "That I was loved all the way, even when I didn't know which direction love was facing." We breathed together, a choir without a song. Nell stood without asking permission from her knees. "My shelter had cameras," she said. "One night. It caught me taking bread I wasn't assigned. For months, the clip lived like a snake in my chest. Tonight I realized the camera didn't know my day. It didn't know I'd fed 2 friends who were sicker. I'm not excusing. I'm explaining to myself." She sat. Anna reached back and squeezed her hand the way you fix a wobble without a hammer. I stood last. The room held me up. "If there's a sentence you've been practicing alone," I said, "you can let it breathe here. We will not make a statue out of it. We'll make a chair." A few people smiled at the bench plaque through the side door. "The next right thing. Rest here." "After a few of us speak," I added, "we'll put on a kettle and let the quiet do some work." A man in a work jacket stood, thumb hooked in a belt loop like he didn't trust both hands with the truth. "I took my brother's tools," he said. "Said I'd bring 'em back. Didn't. He moved. I kept the lie because I didn't know how to return the guilt." He swallowed. "Tomorrow, I buy a new set and ship them with a note. That'll be my camera was on." Lila nodded once, the benediction of a small yes. A teenager in a hoodie spoke without standing. "I told my mum I was at practice. I was on a bus to see a friend who needed me more." She saw the location share and, yeah, a quick breath. "I wasn't wrong to go. I was wrong not to trust her. I'll tell her that part." "Dahlia," from 3 seats over, "that's how grown folks talk." A small laugh travelled. It sounded like a zipper closing something safely. Near the door, a woman wearing a soft-brimmed hat lifted a hand without showing her face. "I can't stay for long," she said. "But I have a sentence." She didn't step into the light. She didn't need to. "I forgive the boy who couldn't save me," she said. "It took me 20 years to like the woman I did save." She placed a folded paper on the chair by the wall and slipped out. The door's sigh sounded like gratitude. We put the kettle on. Cups passed hand to hand like good rumours. Nobody hurried the silence. On the folded paper, 4 bus vouchers and a line in blue ink. For the next right thing. M. I pressed the note to my chest, the way I had pressed Daniel's whisper earlier. Then I set it on the mercy table, where gifts learn their jobs. Evan stood by the projector with the body of a man and the face of a boy, trying not to cry. "I made one more clip," he said. "No music. Just Dad's sentences with the gaps left in. Gaps are where we breathe. He pressed play. Daniel's voice returned, apology shaped into invitation. If I forget, remind me when it ended. The room decided together to clap softly, the way you clap for a bravery that can't bear a parade. Lila did what she always does after hard beauty. If you need someone to hold your sentence with you, raise a finger. Fingers rose, hands met, chairs scooted close. We practiced being a neighborhood. Anna pressed a scone into Nell's palm and whispered, "For brave throats." "Still hurts," Nell said, surprised. "Good stitches do," Anna answered. Later, Evan and I walked home under a sky that looked freshly erased. "You doing okay, Mum?" he asked. "I am what they call repaired," I said, "not new. Good." He grinned. Dad would have hated being the main character. "He never was," I said. "He was the door." We glanced at the church. A single lamp glowed in the hall like a kept promise. At home, I opened the box where I keep the map, the letters, the small museum of our next right things. I added tonight's program and the blue ink note from M. On an index card, I wrote, "Listening night, Daniel's whisper, M's vouchers." Then I did something I had not done before. I spoke to the nursery camera, perched on the shelf like a patient owl. "Tomorrow," I said to it, to him, to me. "Remind me." The next afternoon, I set the camera in the same corner Daniel used. I sat in the rocker with the tote bag. New water, new bandages, a notebook with fresh pages. I pressed record. "If I forget, remind me," I began, using his words as a key. "Remind me that love is not a performance. It is a practice. It is socks, sorted by size. It is a bench that says, 'Rest here.' It is showing up when the story needs a chair." I breathed. "Remind me that forgiveness is a long hallway, with doors we open one at a time. Remind me to say Mara with tenderness and May with patience." I looked straight into the lens. "Tonight I will take this kit to Grove, and if somebody needs a cup, we'll have two." I pressed stop and let the quiet praise the room. Evening. Grove Street. The plaque on the bench caught the low sun. The next right thing. Rest here. A man sat, turning a voucher over like a coin he meant to spend wisely. A girl leaned her head on her backpack and counted her breaths. Dahlia lit a cigarette, reconsidered it, and didn't. Evan tightened a hinge that no one else heard squeak. I filled a paper cup at the water cooler and handed it to whoever's hand met mine first. We didn't fix the world we practiced. It counted. The camera was on. He forgot. But now, when the red light winks awake in the corner of the room, I remember. I remember to tell the truth before it hardens into shame. I remember to make the after kinder than the before. I remember that love, recorded or not, is most powerful when it becomes a chair, a cup, a map with room for detours. If you're listening with a sentence you've been practicing alone, here's your nudge. Speak it. We'll keep the room big. Keep going. I didn't mean to keep the camera. It just stayed, like an old prayer somebody forgot to say out loud. That night, rain braided the window, and the little red eye woke. I pressed play. He came in quiet. No socks. A tote bag that clinked like small kindnesses, bottled water, bandages, bus schedules from a library printer. He set everything down as if the room might need first aid. "Practice," he whispered to no one and to me. "Say it plain." He meant to tell me about Tuesdays, about the church on Grove Street, back pew, paper cups of water handed out like sacraments, about the map of names, Dahlia, Reverend Lila, Anna, and one he only half dared to write, M. He meant to tell me why the trunk was always full of water, why cash went missing in amounts too small to accuse and too steady to ignore. He meant to tell me about Mara, his sister, the ghost he kept feeding with good deeds, because he couldn't bear the thought that he'd failed her once and might fail her again. He forgot the camera, but the lens remembered him, the rocker, the window, his hands learning the shape of an apology. May, he tried, then laughed at himself. I'm not protecting you by keeping quiet. I'm protecting my pride. He tightened the latch as if the weather might test us. He oiled the hinge that had learned to ache. He hummed the off-key line of a hymn he swore he didn't know. Pause 5 seconds. I paused the clip and felt the whole house shift, not like an earthquake, more like a boat finding the current meant for it. In the folder there was one more, a file with a stubborn icon and a braver title, If I Forget, Remind Me. Error, again, error. So I called my son, Evan, who opens doors like they're new chances. He coaxed the file like a skittish animal, and out came a thin ribbon of sound, the whisper track the camera keeps when the picture fails. My husband's voice arrived like rain you can drink. If I forget, remind me, love isn't a secret kept tidy. It's a messy room with the light left on. Remind me to say her name, Mara, without building a monument to my regret. Remind me I'm not a hero. I'm a neighbor with a trunk full of water. Vic O. May. He promised the air he'd tell me tomorrow. Tomorrow ran out. So I carried his promise forward to the only room that could hold it, Grove Street. We didn't advertise. We set out chairs the way you set out plates for people you love. Enough for newcomers, space for elbows. Anna brought scones. For brave throats, she wrote. Dahlia stood by the coffee like a lighthouse that knew storms by name. Reverend Lila said what needed saying. Cameras record corners, hearts hold rooms. Tonight, we'll listen without prosecuting. On the wall, my old rocker appeared, larger than life and exactly the size of it. The hum filled the hall like a low organ note. And then, his voice. If I forget, remind me. It drifted through us, soft as a clean sheet. When it ended, no one rushed to be wise. We let the quiet lay its hand on our shoulders. Lila asked, What did you hear? A teen. That practicing counts. A woman in denim. That guilt can learn a trade. Dahlia. That love isn't tidy, but it sure is strong. And me. That I was loved all the way, even when I didn't know which direction love was facing. Nell stood, courage in both hands. My shelter camera caught me taking bread that wasn't mine. The clip never showed I'd fed two sicker than me. I'm still sorry. I'm also more than that frame. We nodded the way trees nod to wind, not judgment, recognition. Near the door, a woman in a soft-brimmed hat lifted a hand. I can't stay, but I have a sentence. She didn't step into the light. She didn't need to. I forgive the boy who couldn't save me, she said. It took me 20 years to like the woman I did. She left a folded note on the chair by the wall and slipped out, like a tide that has decided not to drown the shore. On the paper, bus vouchers and 4 words in blue ink, for the next right thing. We put the kettle on, cups passed hand to hand like good rumours. Evan played one more clip he'd cut from the whispers. No music, just sentences with the gaps left in people clapped the way you clap for a bravery that can't bear a parade. Lila said, If you need someone to hold your sentence with you, raise a finger. Fingers rose, hands met. Chairs scooted close. We practiced being a neighborhood. Outside, the bench plaque caught moonlight. The next right thing. Rest here. We named it that because we needed instructions. Even furniture could follow. A man folded a voucher over and over like a coin he meant to spend wisely. A girl leaned on her backpack and counted her breaths to 10 and back. At home, I put a new list on the fridge. Refill water. Restock socks, sizes labeled. Bring the good tea. Under it, I wrote smaller. Remember, this is neighbor work, not hero work. Evan added, tighten hinge on hall door. Hinges, it seems, want to learn forgiveness too. The first heat wave arrived like a dare. We opened early, new sign in thick marker, cool here. No questions. A man in a sun-bleached cap sank onto the bench. Water? His lips cracked around the word. 2, I said, one for his hand, one for the back of his neck. He exhaled. I don't like to be seen needing. Me neither, I said. We'll call it sharing. A teenager sat down faster than gravity asked. We moved like a choir that knew the song, Evan with ice, Lila making space, Anna with popsicles that tasted like childhood. Am I in trouble? He asked. No, I said. You're in a neighborhood. His laugh was fragile, and then it learned to stand. I went to the station bakery Daniel had circled years ago. The doorbell had a tired ring. The display case didn't pretend to hold Paris. At the back, a woman swept, short silvering hair, hands measuring the broom like a metronome. We're out of famous, she said, but we have what's good. I'll take good, I answered. As I turned to go, she said, softer, tell the man with the cap that Tuesdays kept me. He can't come, I said, but he's here when we set the chairs. She nodded, the way you close a book, gently. Keep going. I write little letters now that live behind plaques and under sugar bowls. To the next person who sits here, rest first, then choose the smallest right thing. To the clerk at the PO counter, your pen forgave the paper. To M, your cornbread tasted like a second chance. Evan started repairing tea. Bring a wobbly chair, a stubborn hinge, a radio that wants to learn the news again. If you can't pay, tell us a story. People came. They always do when the price is attention. A 10-year-old asked how to oil a hinge because it sounded like making something quieter. I told him, that's what we're doing here. In an old cigar tin, I found a micro-cassette labeled in Daniel's neat print. Choose test. His voice was younger than I remembered, and older than when we met Mara. I'm sorry I made myself the hero. I'm learning to show up without a script. Love is long and mostly unphotogenic. May, if you're listening, you already know more than I could say in a letter. Thank you for letting a man practice being better. I cried the patient way, shoulders still, eyes doing the work. We held a festival of small things, no stage, just stations, repair and tea, mercy table, choir that doesn't audition, story bench. Nell sang harmony with Dahlia on a song that didn't mind being simple. Anna brewed coffee. Evan replaced a board that asked nicely. A woman in a hat left an envelope, 20 bus vouchers and a note. For the next person whose after needs a bed. I looked up into the late sun and imagined Daniel somewhere pleased and quiet. At home, I set the camera in the same corner he used. I pressed record. If I forget, remind me, I told the lens. Remind me to keep the kettle ready and the door unafraid. To stock socks by size. To say people's names the way you set a fragile thing down, with both hands. I breathed. Remind me that forgiveness is a long hallway, and we open one door at a time. I pressed stop and let the quiet praise the room. That night, I watched one last clip of Daniel in the rocker, practicing the line he never got to finish. "I'm afraid you'll think I'm a liar," he told the darkness, because I told the truth too late. I pressed my palm to the screen like I could keep him from drowning in his own doubt. "You were late," I whispered, "but you were here." Another heat advisory. Another sign. "Cool here, no questions." We learned to make the mercy table work like an organ. Water the low note, shade the chord, names the melody, a man said. "I hate needing." "We all do," I said. "That's why we share." He took 2 waters and left one on the bench for the next person. The camera could never catch that invisible pass, but the room could. And it did. The camera was on. He forgot. Now, when the red light winks awake in the corner, I remember to tell the truth before it hardens into shame, to make the after kinder than the before, to trade performances for practices, a bench, a cup, a map with room for detours. If you're holding a sentence you've been rehearsing in the dark, here is your nudge. Step into the room we've kept big for you. Say it. We'll set out another chair. After listening night, the house felt different. Not bigger, not smaller, just more awake. The camera in the nursery corner learned a new job. It reminds me. I press record now when my courage wobbles, the way Daniel did, and I say the sentence I'm most likely to misplace. On Tuesdays, we still set out chairs like plates. On heat days, the sign still says, "Cool here, no questions." What's changed is simple. I stop hiding my soft underbelly from the people who've already seen it. A man and a woman reached for the last pair of thick socks at the same time. Tension prickled the room like static. "Trade me," I said, holding up 2 thinner pairs and a hand warmer. "Make 3 from 1. He smiled first. She rolled her eyes second. Both laughed third. That's how peace works here. Awkward, then honest, then fine. Anna asked Nell to open morning porch, keys, light bedsy, the chalkboard that never fully erases. I sat in the corner with tea and a list I didn't need. Halfway through grinding beans, Nora's hands trembled. "I'm alone," she whispered. "You're first," I corrected. "Others are on their way." We counted breaths together. She set out cups like small promises. By 8:30, the bell over the door rang steady enough to be considered a heartbeat. Good deeds need good forms. A letter from the city said the fellowship hall's evening gatherings had to match their use permit. Not a shutdown, a review. "Paperwork is just a story with boxes," Evans said, already printing tabs. We gathered. Lila's binder of schedules, my notebook of motel vouchers, Anna's receipts for scones labelled for brave throats. "Tell the truth, Tidy," Dahlia advised. "They respect Tidy." That afternoon, an envelope arrived. No return address. Blue ink inside. "I'm learning to stay Tuesdays are longer than I thought." M. I read it to the bench plaque the way some people read to tombstones. Then I slid it under the Mercy table tablecloth, so it could hold up the corner that sags. "Teach him the oil trick," Louise told Evan like a foreman. "Payment is a story," Evan said. The friend told one about a dog who listens only to harmonica. We paid in laughter and a tuned hinge. Someone asked if we'd post Daniel's whisper online. "Cameras record corners, hearts hold rooms," Lila reminded us. "Let the whisper stay where chairs remember it." We voted with nods, no upload. We keep the gap where breathing belongs. I told the camera that night, "If I forget, remind me. Privacy is also a kindness." Storms in our city arrive like passionate letters. Too much ink, not enough envelope. Power blinked. The hall went hush. The little red monitor eye kept winking. Battery backup. Calm evacuation, Lila said like a conductor. Pairs, not lines. Names, not numbers. We handed out ponchos nobody meant to keep, and laughter people did on the bench. The plaque caught one dramatic raindrop and wore it like jewelry. Morning smelled like wet pennies and lemon oil. We squeegeed the hall and retrieved a single grateful goldfish cracker from under a chair like a small survivor. A donated fan had vanished overnight. We left a note on the bulletin board. If you borrowed the fan, bless you. Please return it when the heat breaks. 3 days later, it came home with a ribbon and an apology in block letters. Sorry needed it. We clapped for the ribbon. We made bench night a monthly thing. No program, just dusk and testimonies that prefer benches over stages. A man touched the plaque and said, "This sentence saved me from trying to fix the whole week." A woman answered, "It saved me from quitting." I stacked cups. The sky decided to be beautiful without being asked. I heard the listening from the back row. I'm still learning. M. I pressed the card to my sternum and then to the plaque, just to share the heartbeat. Take your time, I told the air, and I meant both of us. We set the projector aside and set out a pitch pipe that never finds the same pitch twice. Nell started a melody. The room joined like water learning a shape. Dahlia's alto scratched the edge of the note in a way that made it truer. When we landed, nobody asked who sang best. We asked who felt held. Hands rose like houses with lights on. If I forget, remind me. The point of a camera is not to catch someone. It's to keep someone. Keep them long enough to hand them water, to hear the end of their sentence, to show them the bench where the next right thing is allowed to be small. Tomorrow the inspector comes. Remind me. Honesty first, numbers second, tidy third, tea after. I press stop. The red light sighs into sleep. I leave the room big. Morning smelled like pencil shavings and resolve. We called a community huddle in the fellowship hall, the one the city might frown at if our paperwork didn't learn its manners. Reverend Lila set a folder on the table. Permits, calendars, the kind of forms that make kindness stand up straight. Evan arrived with tabs color-coded like a rainbow that paid taxes. Dahlia leaned in the doorway, arms crossed, heart open. Anna slid in with a tray labeled Fuel for Bureaucrats. We tell the truth tidy, Lila said, and we bring receipts for mercy. Plus chairs, I added. We always bring chairs. A man with careful eyes asked, "If the city says no more nights, do we stop being us?" "No," Lila said, smiling. "We become us. Elsewhere." Anna lifted a hand. "Morning Porch can host after hours 2 nights a week. I'll turn the closed sign into listening." The man nodded slowly, like a hinge learning smooth. That afternoon, I aimed the nursery camera at my best handwriting and recorded a tiny training film. How we listen. Step 1, I read. Use names. If you don't know it, learn it. If they don't want to say, don't push. Step 2, water in a cup before wisdom in a sentence. Step 3, no fixing in the first 5 minutes. Maybe not in the first 5 visits. Step 4, end with the next right thing, small enough to carry in one hand. I looked into the lens. If I forget, remind me. Our job is not to catch anyone. Our job is to keep them long enough for hope to sit down. Evan cut the video like a quilt. My pages, his soft captions, a subtitle that said, "Welcome, listener." He added room tone on purpose so new volunteers wouldn't rush the silence. Later we can translate, he said. Mercy speaks more than one language. He exported 3 versions: phone, projector, and the leave on a counter file you set to loop when you need courage. We planned listening night 2 with a theme, what I meant to say. Chairs in a circle, no microphone, the projector off like a respectful witness. Anna chalked a sign for the door. If your voice shakes, that's just proof it's yours. I stacked cups. Dahlia set out napkins like little flags that meant safe. Lila rehearsed the disclaimer. Cameras record corners, hearts hold rooms. When the first shoulders appeared in the doorway, the room took a breath. Lila's voice was a blanket. Tonight we'll practice the sentences that showed up late. No debates, no cross-exam, just chairs. A woman with a grocery store name tag on her shirt said, I meant to tell my son I kept his drawings. I found them all last week. I'm going to mail them to him with a note. I kept you, even when I didn't say it right. A murmur moved around the circle, like a hand on a back. A man held up a screwdriver like a confession. I told my neighbor I'd fixed the cabinet last year. I kept forgetting I wasn't avoiding him. I was avoiding the shame of being a month late. Then, too, tomorrow after work, I'm going. Text me a picture of the cabinet handle, Evan said. I'll bring the right screws. The room smiled. Add a neighbor. Subtract a year. Nell spoke without standing. I meant to say I was scared the first morning I opened the cafe alone. I still am sometimes. But I learned the names of the men who come before sunrise. The bus drivers, the delivery guys. They call me ma'am, like a promise. I'm keeping it. Keep going, Dahlia said, her voice a low harmony. I took my turn. I meant to say to Daniel, I would have forgiven you faster than you could speak. I'm saying it now to the room that kept him brave. We let that sentence sit in the center chair. You could feel it relax. During tea, Anna pulled out a small calendar with coffee stains in meaningful places. Morning porch is yours. Tuesdays and Thursdays after 6, she said. We'll move 2 listening nights there each month. Call it the room of rest. Dahlia added, I'll run a rotating room list. Church, cafe, even the back room at the thrift. No one owns this. We all host it. Lila nodded. If the city asks where mercy meets, we answer. Everywhere with a chair. A young man approached the mercy table and placed a folded receipt beside the cups. I took batteries from the grocery last month, he said. Tonight I brought them back and paid for 2 packs I didn't take. He didn't look up. He didn't need to. Thank you, I said. Next right thing accepted. Would you like a cup? He took water, not absolution, and sat by the plaque outside until he believed himself a little. As we stacked chairs, a soft-brimmed hat appeared in the back row and didn't leave when the room emptied. The brim faced forward. The shoulders were set like a person learning a new stance, staying I didn't walk toward her. I watered the plant by the window that does fine on neglect, but thrives on noticing. When I looked back, the hat was still there, and the room felt like it had remembered an old friend's name. Inspector Day smelled like fresh toner and honest nerves. Evan stacked our binders like good bricks, permits, calendars, voucher logs. Reverend Lila set out water cups, because that's our first language. The inspector walked in with a pen that looked like it made decisions. We hold small scheduled gatherings, Lila began, ending by 10. Names first, numbers second, receipts tidy. Evan slid a 1-page summary across the table. Here's our room of rest rotation: church, cafe, thrift rear room. Occupancy never exceeded. Exits clear. I added what only a widow brings. We aim for neighbours, not heroes. The pen paused. That felt hopeful. We walked the hall like it was telling its own story. Chairs stacked neatly, exit signs awake, the mercy table arranged like a soft spine, cups, socks, kettle. "Do you store overnight?" the inspector asked. "Only kindness," Dahlia said, then softened it with a smile. "Supplies go in the closet by 10. He checked the bench outside. I watched his eyes catch the plaque. The next right thing. Rest here. "Good sign," he said, and I didn't know if he meant the plaque or the omen. Back at the table, the pen wrote a sentence we needed. Provisional approval, 90 days. Document your rotation. Keep aisles clear. Maintain logs, he said. "We've been doing that," Evan answered, polite pride showing at the corners. The inspector nodded once. "Then you'll be fine." We breathed like we'd been underwater and someone mentioned shore. That evening our circle felt taller somehow. Anna's kettle sang. Nell set out napkins with square corners. The hat, that soft brim, sat in the back row and didn't leave when the last chair scraped. I tidied the mercy table a beat slower than usual. "Plenty of time," Dahlia murmured, reading my pace. "Let the room decide." I carried a cup to the back row and set it on the chair beside her, no closer. "Room's yours till 10, I said. "After that we take it to the porch." Silence tried on comfort. Then a voice, low, careful. I liked the no fixing in 5 minutes. I smiled at the floor, where stubborn floors prefer you to smile. "It saved me from saying 3 foolish things this week." She huffed a tiny laugh. 4 for me." We let that be enough. Repair and Tea had a visitor with sleeves too long and attention just right, Luis's friend from last time. He came carrying a cabinet door like a shield. "Bad hinge?" Evan asked. "Bad year," the boy said. "Hinge is just loud about it." Evan placed a small bottle of oil in his hand. "Your project." The boy breathed, turned the screws, oiled the pin, listened for quiet. When the door stopped complaining, he grinned. "Feels like respect." "That's the sound," I said. I took the repaired door to the thrift back room and then walked to the station bakery. The bell gave its tired ring. Behind the counter, the woman with silvering hair wrapped cornbread in paper. "You have a message?" she said, tapping the register where a sticky note clung blue ink. "Room big enough. M." I tucked it in my pocket like a small son. "Thank you," I said, meaning a dozen things. Morning porch looked beautiful in the wrong time of day. Lamps low, chalkboard listing tea instead of muffins, the bell resting. Anna flipped the sign to listening. Reverend Lila arranged chairs between pastry cases that held only reflections. We pinned a small card near the cups. "This room does not argue." People came, carrying the sentences they meant to say. A woman with paint on her jeans said, "I meant to tell my father the porch is safe now. I fixed the rail. He can lean." A bus driver. "I meant to tell my night route I pray for the folks who sleep, even when I honk." A quiet man. "I meant to tell my daughter I kept her voicemail where she sings the alphabet. It reminds me to practice." Chairs shifted like agreeable ideas. Later, Dahlia caught a teen slipping a hand warmer into a pocket. Her voice came gentle. "You can take it, sweetheart. We just like knowing how many to bring next week." He flushed, set it back, then picked it up properly. "2, he said. "Me and my brother." "2 it is," she answered. and the room stayed big. 2 weeks in, a follow-up email asked for representative documentation. Evan arrived with a binder so neat, even paper clips felt underdressed. We scanned vouchers with names hidden, dates shown, totals matched to donations. Anna added receipts, Lila added schedules. I added a note in handwriting the city would never read. "Thank you, Daniel." We sent it with a breath held, then released. The reply came faster than fear predicted. Provisional extended through the season, with thanks for clarity. I read the email aloud to the bench. It shimmered like wood does when it agrees, "Neighbors, not heroes," I told the plaque. And the plaque, being good wood, kept the secret. We brought back the Festival of Small Things. No stage, just stations. Nell tuned a kettle by listening to its first sigh. Luis hung a cardboard sign. He lettered himself, "Oil makes quiet." The sky went gold like it remembered being wheat. People drifted in, not a crowd so much as a gentle current. Near sundown, Luis taught a stranger the hinge trick with no grown-up stepping in. He said, "Turn it slow, screws are shy at first." When the hinge obeyed, the stranger saluted him with a paper cup. "To the foreman," he said. Luis tried on the smile of a person who fixed a tiny corner of the world. It fit. Choir that doesn't audition formed by the door. Nell took a line and didn't apologize for being heard. Dahlia's alto scratched the note into honesty. We sang a benediction made of 2 lines and a long exhale. Even the ice in the cooler seemed to unclench. On the church porch, after most feet had decided home, the hat turned toward me. "I don't like reunions," she said, voice low. "They expect parades." "Then we won't have one," I answered. "We'll have chairs." She nodded at the bench. "He used to sit with his cap low and count the cups." "I know," I said. "He forgot the camera sometimes. It remembered him kindly." A long breath passed between us, like a baton that didn't need hands. "I'm not ready to be anyone's aunt," she said. "You're already someone's M," I said. "That's plenty." We watched a moth make terrible decisions around a porch bulb and still somehow live. "If I write," she asked, "will you read without reading into?" "Yes," I said. "We practice that here." She tipped the hat, small, sovereign, and left down the steps that remember everyone equally. That night, rain found the gutters eager. The motel fund was down to its last envelope. 2 vouchers, $3, a note from a week ago. For the next right thing at 10:27, a knock. Dahlia opened to a man who'd run out of night before he ran out of road. "2 beds if you can," he said. "My sister's outside." We counted vouchers like careful breaths. Not enough. "Wait," I said, and went to the nursery shelf. The camera's red eye blinked at me as if to say, "Remember." On the porch table, a plain envelope waited in the corner where rain can't quite reach blue ink on the front, for after. Inside, 3 vouchers and a 10. No note, no flourish, just exactly the gap filled. I pressed it to my sternum and then to the plaque before handing the clerk what the night required. The siblings left with keys and a plan to sleep. We stood in the doorway and watched the rain do its honest work. If I forget, remind me. Keep envelopes where rain can't find them. Keep chairs where shame can't. Keep water where pride learns to share. Remind me we are allowed to be tired, not allowed to be cruel. Remind me to tell the story without the parade. I pressed stop, and the room felt praised. A final email, written like a handshake. "Approved through the year. The thank your committee," the note said. Your documentation was exemplary. We did thank them. Lila, Evan, Anna, Dahlia, every person whose name was never on a form but lived on a cup. I printed the email and taped it inside the supply closet, where the mops can feel proud. Evan arrived with a tiny brass strip he'd engraved in a shop that smells like careful heat. We fixed it beneath the first line on the bench. Now it reads, "The next right thing. Rest here, you made it here." We stepped back. The bench looked like it had been waiting for that second sentence all along. A kettle exhaling like a patient animal. A screwdriver turning slow because screws are shy at first. A teen placing 2 hand warmers on the table. Me and my brother. Nell opening the cafe at dawn. Belle behaving, hands steady. Anna chalking a sign that refuses to fully erase. Listening. Dahlia choosing not to light the cigarette. Humming instead. Lila's palms up at the circle. Room big, room kind. The hat in the back row. Staying. The nursery camera's red eye blinking like a tiny lighthouse. A camera can hold a corner, not a soul. It caught my husband practicing the truth. It reminds me to practice too. But the real record is written in cup rings on a table, in oiled hinges, in the bench that says, "Rest first." When people ask what changed us, I say, we stopped trying to be impressive. We started trying to be available. If you're listening with a sentence you've been rehearsing in the dark, bring it to a chair. No microphones, no cross-exam, just water in a cup and someone who knows how to keep quiet for the first 5 minutes. If you have nothing to confess but everything to give, bring socks, bring tea, bring your toolbox and your unhurried time. If you only have breath, breathe here. We'll match you, the camera was on. He forgot. Now, when the little red light winks awake, I remember to tell the truth before it hardens into shame, to measure success in chairs set out and cups refilled, to make the after kinder than the before. The bench has 2 lines now because some days you need both. The next right thing. Rest here. You made it here. If you did, if you made it here with us, take a breath, take a cup, take your time.